You have probably heard that dogs can smell fear. It's the kind of thing adults say when a child runs toward a strange dog. Don't be scared. They can smell fear. And that's a strange sentence, because fear feels private, like something that happens behind your eyes, in your chest, in the invisible place where thoughts turn into alarms before you even know what you're afraid of. But if a dog can smell fear, then fear isn't just inside you, it's outside you, in the air. And the scarier question isn't whether dogs can smell fear. The scarier question is whether you can. Smell isn't magic, it's chemistry. When you smell coffee, you're inhaling molecules that have left the coffee and entered your nose. When you smell smoke, you're detecting chemical evidence that somewhere, something is burning. Smell is a way of reading invisible matter, which means if fear has a smell, fear isn't only an emotion, it's physical information, a signal your body releases into the world without asking permission. And maybe, long before language and faces and the words "I'm scared," bodies were already talking to each other through the air. Scientists call these chemicals chemosignals, not pheromones, because a pheromone usually means one specific molecule causing one specific behavior. Fear smell is messier than that. It's a cloud, a pattern, a body odor signature shaped by stress, sweat glands, hormones, and the nervous system all at once. And here's where it gets strange. In 2009, a German researcher named Bettina Pars at Heinrich Heine University collected sweat from students waiting to take an academic exam. Stressed, anxious students, the kind of sweat your body produces when it knows it's about to be judged. She compared it to sweat from the same people during exercise. Both are sweat, both come from bodies. But the body doesn't sweat in only one language, and exercise sweat and anxiety sweat carry different messages. Then she put new participants in an fMRI scanner and exposed them to the exam sweat. They couldn't really smell it. The odors were faint enough that most couldn't tell which sweat was which, but their brains reacted differently. Areas involved in empathy, emotional processing, and attention lit up specifically when they were inhaling the anxious sweat. The conscious person didn't know, the brain did, which opens a strange possibility that emotion can arrive before awareness, and another person's anxiety can enter your nervous system without knocking. But a brain scan is one thing. Behavior is another. So at Rice University, researchers Wen Zhou and Denise Chen ran a different kind of experiment. They collected sweat from men who'd just watched scary films and exposed women to that sweat while showing them faces, some clearly happy, some clearly afraid, and some ambiguous, hard to read. When the women were inhaling fear sweat, they were more likely to interpret the ambiguous faces as fearful. Think about that. The eyes on the screen didn't change, the mouth didn't change, the pixels didn't change, but the world became a little more threatening. Not because of what they saw, but because of what they smelled. Smell wasn't adding information. It was tuning perception. A face that might have been neutral became suspicious. A room that might have been safe became slightly less so. So can humans smell fear? The answer turned out to be yes, just not consciously. And it doesn't stop at perception. In 2021, Lucas Meister and Bettina Pors tested whether anxiety chemosignals could change how people make financial decisions. Participants played a trust game with small amounts of money, choosing how much to risk with a stranger. Women exposed to anxiety, sweat became more cautious. They trusted less. They invested less. Not because someone walked in screaming, not because a warning light flashed, but because a chemical trace of another person's fear was in the air. A smell they didn't experience as meaningful. That's the unsettling part. We talk about intuition as if it's magical. I just had a bad feeling. The vibe was off. Something about that room felt wrong. And sometimes that feeling is wrong. Humans are very good at inventing stories for random discomfort. But sometimes, maybe the vibe isn't only a vibe. Maybe it's data. Not clean data, not conscious data, but the nervous system of one body leaking into another. And this isn't limited to fear. In 2012, researchers at Utrecht University led by Gunsemin collected sweat from men watching either fear-inducing or disgust-inducing videos. Women exposed to fear sweat showed fear-like responses, widened eyes, more sensory intake, more visual scanning. Women exposed to disgust, sweat scrunched their noses and breathed less. Fear says take in more information. Something may be out there. Disgust says take in less. Your face isn't random. Your face is a tool. Fear opens the eyes. Disgust closes the nose, and if someone else's emotional sweat can pull your face toward the same expression, then emotion isn't only something we recognize, it's something we catch, almost like a yawn, except instead of seeing one, your body receives a chemical trace of someone else's state and begins to prepare the same state in you. Which brings us back to animals. Dogs don't need us to explain this. They live in a smell world. A dog entering a room isn't entering only a room, it's entering a history. Who was here, what they touched, whether another dog passed through yesterday, whether the human nearby is calm or sick or afraid. To a dog, the world has subtitles written in scent. In 2017, an Italian researcher named Biagio Daniello at the University of Naples, Federico II, did something beautifully simple. He collected sweat from men who'd watched horror films and compared it to sweat from men who'd watched happy ones. Then he exposed Labradors and Golden Retrievers to those odors. The dogs inhaling fear sweat had elevated heart rates. They sought their owners more. They behaved differently around strangers. They weren't watching a horror movie or being told a scary story. They were smelling the afterimage of a human emotion, and their own bodies were starting to change. Fear had traveled, not through sound or language or expression, but as chemistry, an emotional fossil, still fresh enough to move another nervous system. And then there are horses. Horses are prey animals, and for a prey animal, fear isn't a personal problem. It's group information. A herd that waits for an explanation may not stay a herd very long, so it makes sense that horses would be especially sensitive to emotional signals, including ours. In 2023, Plotine Jardat and Léa Lansard at the French Institute for Horse and Riding tested it directly. They collected sweat from people watching scary versus joyful videos and presented it to horses. The horses sniffed the fear sweat differently. They startled more easily and approached strangers less. The folk wisdom, horses can smell fear, turned out to be measurable biology. But there's a problem with studies like this. If a dog reacts to fear sweat while a human is nearby, how do we know the dog is reacting to the smell itself and not to the human reacting to it? Social animals are complicated, and maybe the dog is just reading the person. So in 2025, researchers at the Konrad Lorenz Institute in Vienna ran the experiment again, but this time they shielded the human present from the odor entirely. The human couldn't smell it and couldn't react to it. The dogs still responded. Not dramatically, not like in a movie. The effects were subtle and varied between individual dogs, which is what real biology usually looks like. Not a superpower, just a measurable shift. A body changing its behavior because another body left chemical information behind. And maybe that's the honest version of this story. Not that fear smell controls minds, or that animals can read your soul, or that humans have a secret sixth sense. The truth is quieter than that. Bodies leak information. Other bodies sample it. And sometimes, without consciousness, that information changes what happens next, which raises a question. Where does an emotion end? We imagine emotion as something contained by skin. Your fear is yours, my anxiety is mine. But if my fear changes your perception, if your anxiety makes me more cautious, if a horse becomes more alert because a human watched a horror film in another room, then emotions aren't fully sealed inside us. Maybe they're events in space, not just things we have, but things we emit, things that move, things other living systems can detect, which makes the air between us feel different. Not empty, not silent, a shared biological atmosphere, a place where bodies are constantly writing messages too faint for the conscious mind to read. Maybe that's why some rooms feel heavy. Maybe that's why panic spreads. Maybe that's why calm spreads too. Because you're not just a mind piloting a body through empty space. You're a chemical animal surrounded by other chemical animals, breathing each other in and changing each other quietly. And maybe fear was never just a feeling. Maybe it was one of the first languages. A body changing its chemistry and another body noticing. A silent alarm, a nervous system outside the nervous system. A message that says something is wrong. So yes, dogs can smell fear, horses can too. And humans. We may not be as nose blind as we think. We may simply be conscious blind. Our bodies may know things before we do. The next time you walk into a room and something feels off, you might be wrong. It could be memory or imagination, or your brain inventing monsters out of shadows. But it might also be older than thought. older than language, older than you. A chemical whisper from another body saying, "Pay attention." Until the next strange thing, thanks for watching.